In the 1960s, General Motors tried to reinvent the trucking industry with two trucks that are mostly forgotten today, the Bison and the Turbo Titan III. In this video, we'll try to figure out why they were built and whether it was worth it or a complete failure. The early 1960s were full of crazy experiments at General Motors. The company was testing new engineering ideas and spending a lot of time looking for what it believed could be the next big breakthrough. One technology attracted more attention than almost anything else: the gas turbine engine. Today, most people associate turbines with airplanes, yet back then, several American manufacturers thought they might have a place on the highway. Chrysler had its turbine car program, Ford was working on its own turbine-powered truck, and General Motors had already spent about 15 years researching the technology. The interest made sense. Compared with a conventional piston engine, a gas turbine had far fewer moving parts. Engineers figured that could mean less maintenance, and another advantage was its ability to run on many different types of fuel. On paper, it sounded like an excellent match for heavy trucks. There was just one problem. Turning that idea into something practical proved much harder than anyone expected, but that didn't stop General Motors. Rather than building another conventional prototype, the company came up with an entirely new approach to long-haul trucking. That vision became the Bison. General Motors unveiled the truck at the 1964 New York World's Fair as part of its famous Futurama exhibit, where visitors got a glimpse of what the company imagined tomorrow could look like. Ironically, the Bison ended up becoming one of the show's forgotten stars. When people think about the 1964 World's Fair today, they usually remember the debut of the Ford Mustang. Today, the Bison still looks modern. Its low aerodynamic shape has often been compared to artwork by industrial designer Sid Mead, and it's easy to understand why. The driver sat almost directly above the front axle. Behind the cab was a large housing designed to hold its turbine engines, giving the entire truck a smooth profile. There weren't any doors. Instead, the entire glass canopy tilted forward. As it lifted, a step folded down, allowing the driver to climb into the cab through the front. Instead of a traditional steering wheel, the Bison used two hand controls mounted on a movable steering console. The center console was filled with switches and controls, and General Motors even included a telephone inside the cab. The large glass canopy gave the driver and passenger excellent visibility, and the cab included heating and air conditioning to make long trips more comfortable. As futuristic as the truck looked on the outside, its most ambitious ideas were hidden underneath. Not only did the Bison use a gas turbine instead of a diesel engine, it actually used two. General Motors didn't expect both turbines to do the same job. The smaller one, known as the GT309, produced 280 horsepower and an impressive 875 pound-feet of torque. That was the engine the company expected to use during normal driving, whether the truck was cruising down the highway or rolling through traffic. The second turbine was much more powerful, with a claimed 720 horsepower. That one would only come into play when extra power was needed, like climbing steep grades, accelerating with a heavy load, or even pulling a second trailer. Instead of relying on one engine for every situation, General Motors divided the work between two turbines. The company even imagined using electricity generated by those turbines to help drive both the tractor and the trailer axles. General Motors had spent more than 15 years developing turbine technology, and the GT309 reflected everything the company had learned. Engineers even designed it to recover much of its exhaust heat, helping improve efficiency and reduce exhaust temperatures, which had been one of the biggest challenges with earlier turbine projects. The Bison featured a four-wheel steering system with 4 different operating modes. During normal driving, only the front wheels turned. At lower speeds, the front and rear wheels could steer in opposite directions, making tight turns much easier in crowded freight terminals or city streets. Another mode turned all 4 wheels in the same direction. Combined with a locking trailer connection, the Bison could behave almost like a straight truck. The final mode allowed only the rear wheels to steer, making trailer hookups much easier. Anyone who's struggled to back up a trailer would probably have appreciated that feature. The Bison included built-in jacks powered by its air-oil suspension system, which could lift the truck when needed. That same suspension could power sand spreaders to improve traction on slippery roads. By now, it might seem like General Motors was simply trying to build the most advanced truck anyone had ever seen. The truth is, the truck itself was only part of the plan. General Motors believed the entire freight industry would eventually change. The company imagined standardized cargo containers that could be automatically loaded, unloaded, sorted, stacked, and transferred between trucks and other forms of transportation using electronic equipment. At the time, much of the freight arriving at terminals still had to be unloaded by hand. General Motors thought automation could dramatically speed up the entire process. The company knew bringing the Bison into production would require changes far beyond the truck itself. Loading docks would need to be redesigned, repair shops would have to stock turbine parts, and trucking terminals would have to adapt to an entirely new way of handling cargo. It was an ambitious vision. There was just one problem. The Bison never actually worked. Every known photograph from the period shows it standing still. The truck was a full-size concept built to demonstrate ideas rather than operate under its own power. That sounds like the end of the story, but it wasn't. General Motors still believed gas turbines had a future on the highway. So instead of giving up, the company built another truck, the Turbo Titan III. Introduced in 1966, General Motors called it the Truck of Tomorrow. And unlike the Bison, this one was a fully functional prototype. According to the company, it completed several coast-to-coast runs and appeared at shows across the country, giving people a chance to see a turbine-powered truck doing what it had been designed to do. The cab was built from fiberglass and steel. Fighter jet-style air scoops directed air into the turbine engine. The interior was equipped with leather bucket seats, what Chevrolet called astronaut seating, retractable seat belts, air conditioning, and FM stereo, a two-way radio telephone, and special gauges dedicated to monitoring the turbine engine. Instead of a conventional steering wheel, the driver used a compact twin-dial steering system developed by General Motors' Saginaw division. At the heart of the Turbo Titan III was the same GT309 gas turbine that General Motors had proudly showcased with the Bison. By this point, the engine represented more than 15 years of research. The company had finally reached the stage where it could put that work to the test on real highways. And there was good news. The turbine proved to be reliable. Then reality stepped in. Building a gas turbine was expensive. Running one was even worse. Fuel economy was a huge problem. These turbines burned through fuel at an incredible rate, often getting mileage in the low single digits. That might not matter much on a short demonstration run, but for a truck expected to haul freight across the country, it was a deal breaker. And that wasn't the only issue. Producing the GT309 in large numbers would have been extremely costly, making it difficult to justify for commercial fleets. Little by little, the dream of turbine-powered trucks began to fade. General Motors wasn't the only company that reached that conclusion. Other manufacturers had explored the same technology, hoping turbines would replace conventional engines, yet none of those projects reached mass production. So, was the whole project a failure? Not completely. Some of the engineering explored during those early turbine programs eventually contributed to later diesel technology. According to Overdrive technical editor John Baxter, work on early gas turbine projects helped pave the way for turbo compounding systems used in today's Detroit diesel DD15 engine. General Motors expected standardized cargo containers to become a major part of moving goods over long distances. Today, standardized shipping containers are everywhere. Ironically, one of the truck's biggest ideas ended up outliving the truck itself. The Bison, though, quietly disappeared. No one seems to know what happened to the original concept after its time at the World's Fair. Its name did live on. In 1977, General Motors reused the Bison name on its Class 8 Chevrolet truck. The information in this video was gathered from the sources shown on screen. As always, you can find the sources in the Google Doc linked in the description. I recommend checking them out for more details. If you enjoyed this video, there are a couple more on screen you might like. One is about the Dale, a car that became the center of one of the biggest automotive scams of the 1970s. The other tells the story of Celine, the company behind what many consider America's first hypercar. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.